Hey guys, just want to drop in stage 5, Giro d'Italia, super cool. Stage finish, amazing job by Lytle Trek. And man, this Vacek guy, amazing performance for his teammate. And of course, Pedersen just on point again with another stage win. We're going to go over some of the things that I saw that I thought were worthy talking about, both tactically and also just performance-wise. Not really going to get into like the nitty-gritty details of commentating because everyone already does that. We're just going to kind of talk about what we saw in the what I saw in the last bit and how that can, maybe help your group riding or racing. So the first thing is we know this is going to be an explosive finish, and like many of us that race locally or do group rides, a lot of the key moments are explosive climbs or explosive sections where people go really deep. So the first thing to point out is positioning, and these guys, Lytle Trek, nail it going into it. Their team is on the front. They have some help here, of course, by Visma, who are working for Yates. But overall, amazing job here by Vacek. Up front, right in position, last 3K to go, and keeping him there. The reason why this positioning is so important is these climbs like we have today that is 3-minute long effort, something like that. Everybody can do super high power. Everybody is going really hard. And if you start further back, you have to do even more watts to get up in the front, and that could cost you a positioning if someone drops the wheel or someone gets gapped off, or it could cost you just not being able to make the move, or if you move up, it could cost you a lot of effort. So the first thing I want to talk about, Primoz Roglic making a move right here with his teammate at the bottom of the climb. We can see he's gunning it at the base here. Amazing. They show his power, which is super cool. He's doing 700 watts, and he's standing at 90 RPM. Okay, just want to touch on this real quick for those of you that are at home. If you're doing an acceleration and you want it to count, you've got to do high RPM. That adds so much more speed. It also helps you get bigger watts, right? Because at the end of the day, watts are a function of cadence times torque. Torque is a pretty small number, and so to hit these big watt numbers, high cadence makes a big difference. What's special about what Primoz is doing here is he is bent over, he's hunched over, he's aerodynamic, he's in his drops. You can see him being so low to the ground. He is going faster with less effort, and the people behind him, of course, are not getting as good of a draft. You might ask, why is he on the front? Well, the reason for this is because, honestly, he can. The best defense a lot of times is offense. In this case, he knows a lot of his rivals are not as explosive as him. There's no Tadej Pogačar here. There's no one that's going to counterattack him off of this. He knows he's got amazing form. He's got amazing legs. He also knows his UAE opposition is just notoriously bad at positioning. And so by him going to the front early on, it allows him to make the pace hard, get control, and get everyone in the peloton that he's racing under pressure, so it's easy for him to control them. And I think he just did this to flex on these UAE homies that are just out of position. They're too far back. Mainly Ayuso, right? He is, in this case, he's in 15th position already, or 20th position. If someone drops a wheel and Roglic has someone that's strong that can work with him, they could gain some time on him. But again, we got to just talk about this, right? And for those of you at home that have not tried this, try 96 RPM standing. That's hard enough, right? And then add 600 and 700 watts, super hard. The next thing I want to talk about is, what do you do when you're on the front and you don't want to stay on the front? I hear this all the time at group rides. We hear this all the time races. No one would pull around me. This is how you do it. You just pull way off to the side. Roglic does a good job. He gets out of the way. He sees Vacek here, who's going to set the pace for Pedersen, and he slots in right behind on the pink jersey. Now, if I'm a GC contenders team, like a director or whatever, this guy, we already know he's in good shape. We already know he is at a really high level. But, dude, this guy, we're talking 600, 500, 700 watts, no problem. Now, I want to point out something else, and I think this is going to play later on throughout the Giro, right? So moving up by himself on the outside while homeboy is now tucked in and recovering. This is expensive, right? And there's 21 stages, and there's a lot of these kind of mid stages like this. This kind of stuff is expensive. Now, if you're doing your group rides, you're doing your races, you also know this is expensive. You can't do this to move up to this guy and expect that if he attacks, you're going to be able to follow. And just like we saw Tadej take advantage of this quite a few times with some big hitters. We're talking Vanderpool. We're talking people that are just next level at positioning, right? This is peanuts compared to that. But we can already see that this positioning, I think, is going to cost this homie expensive in an expensive manner later on, okay? So now we have the next key thing, right? The next important moment. This is when Vacek is pushing the pace so hard and Pedersen lets the wheel go. And we've heard it a lot of the interviews after the race now. The director, Monfort, says this was the plan. We didn't want to change the plan. We heard Pedersen talk about how he was on the limit. But the key thing here is they didn't change the plan. They bet on the plan. And in this case, Pedersen kept his head cool. He kept the pace going, kept, focused. He let Vacek do his thing, which is, at this point, we're talking about professional athletes, right? We're talking about these guys. You don't just show up and do 700 watts, 600 watts on the final of the climb, and then your leader has a bad moment and says, wait. If they did that, it would have been detrimental because all these riders in here would have started pouncing, right? People love when there's a lack of control. Just having Vacek up front here setting this pace just sends the message to all these other athletes, all these other racers. Hey, Lytle Trek has a plan. It might look like it is not going to plan, but they have a plan. And the plan is this really strong guy is going to set this really hard pace, and you guys are going to be passengers in this bus, right? And so that's what we have happening here. Pedersen, I think he's on the limit, right? Like, I'd heard, he sat up. This is intelligent riding, whatever. I think he was on the limit. I think he could have gone deeper to stay further forward, but I think that would have cost him. And he knew that, if this is hurting him, then it's hurting all the other fast finishers more, right? And so I think that's why he stayed committed. That's why he lost positions. He also knows that all these homies that are filling in the gaps here are people that don't want to go anywhere. He's got his bus driver up here, the pilot, the driver is Vacek is setting a phenomenal pace. We know it's fast too because we can see the line of the group, right? But we know that these riders are unlikely to attack because they are GC folks. And they know they're not going to get time. There's a flat bit after this climb. There's still teammates from their other rival GC teams here. They're going to chase them down, right? So we know these folks are just going to stay put. Just need to kind of worry about maybe some of the stage hunters later in the race. They might try something, but there are enough GC riders and your teammate that is going to set a phenomenal pace. But if you're watching this, what I want to also get across to you guys, and this is something in cycling that we oftentimes struggle with, is don't try to guess or predict the future. There's so many of us that have been in situations like that. Like, look at Pedersen losing the wheel here, folks. Like, look at this. Like, he is going back like an anchor. Now, if you were to just take this screenshot right now, or like the screen video of him going backwards, right, and just swinging all over the bike, and it's 2K to go. And if you were to just, if you're him too, and you look ahead and you see Primos and you see Eusu and you see all these ballers ahead of you. Now, think about yourself on your group rides or your races or whatever it is, and think about how many times you've been in a similar situation and you just sat up because you're like, you know what? I can't keep doing this for 2K. I'm not as strong as these riders. So this is an important point, right? Like, don't predict the future. Just keep going. And in the World Tour, and I learned this, during my pro career, no one gives up, right? Like, it's a non-give up area. Like no one gives up. It's just you don't do it. And so for you, if you're watching at home, like, and you're listening to this, do the same from this, right? Like see what he does here. He stays in it. He wins the stage. But at this moment, if he had predicted the future, he probably would have predicted, I screwed this up, right? We had this plan. You know, I was on the limit. I didn't tell my teammate to slow down because, you know, that would have, all hell would have broken loose. But man, I wasted my teammate. You know, he could have won the stage, and then myself, like, I got dropped. So, but he kept going. Look at this. Also, what I want you to see is that he started the climb in the first 3 people, or I guess first 4 people. So he has at this point lost 30 positions on the climb. But again, this is the importance of, if you're not the strongest climber, still start in the front. A lot of us, when we're not super strong, we think, I'm not super strong. I don't want to get in the way of the good climbers. I'm going to start in the back. And we can see all the good climbers had to come around him. Okay? We can see here Vacek doing a good job setting a strong pace. He's within himself, and as he crests over the top of this climb, we can see that he keeps the pace going, but he backs it off a little bit. And the idea here is that he's allowing the back of the group to bunch and kind of catch back up. Now, if Pedersen was second wheel here or third wheel here, he would have kicked it super hard right here, and this would have snapped the back of the peloton. In cinch, we call this surfing the terrain. We teach our athletes how to do this, how to maximize the terrain to get most speed and also protect your position and create splits and things like that behind you. But we can see here, he's keeping it on, but he's not pushing the pace super hard here. And we see our previous podium contender here, Caruso, taking an attack right here, right in this moment. We know that he sat up here, and what he does a phenomenal job, Vacek does a phenomenal job here, is he brings him back on the downhill. Now, this is perfect for Pedersen because it's not costing him a selection, right? It's not dropping him out of the group. And all of this peloton, as they're accelerating here on the downhill, Pedersen is back further behind than this, but he is staying connected. Okay, he's not having to do this full super hard effort in this moment. He's getting a small recovery and connected over the top of the climb into the downhill. So Vacek does a very good job bringing him back in this moment and just goes around him and kind of keeps the pace going. We see what I'm talking about here, where no GC riders are interested in trying and move because they know, look, Vacek's up here, Trek's controlling it, and we can see, man, there's a lot of UAE jerseys. So it's kind of a stalemate. This enables Pedersen to get back. Now, this is the next thing I want to share with you guys that I think is useful. How do you move up in the peloton? Okay, so this is important. Listen up. We're going to go through this and we're going to watch it. You only want to move up in the peloton like after hard moments when it's bunched like this, and you want to look for other riders that are moving up, and you want to do it on the outside of the peloton. Okay, so we can see Pedersen is already linking up, looking for riders that are on the outside of the peloton. He's staying on the outside. He's not diving into the middle here. Right? And remember, he's pegged. And this is another thing that you guys can take away from this. Keep trying even though you're pegged. A lot of times people, they're pegged, they fall to the back, and they just stay at the back. Move up. Put yourself back into contention. You never know. Beautiful job here by Pedersen, right? We can see he's back there. And here he is. Here's his first bus driver here. This individual, you can see that he wants to go up. We can see the peloton is still bunched. And there he is, following him up through the group. He sets it up on the outside of the peloton through the turn. We can see him back here. He's moving. And now he senses some riders moving up on the right side. And look at this. This is absolutely beautiful. He sees two teammates getting ready to move up on the right side of the peloton. And so it bunches again. We have Alpecin coming to try to keep the pace going. Vacek does a very good job. And here it is. He sees these two teammates. They're over here on the outside. He knows that the one is working for the other. He's going to lead him out in the sprint. And look at this. We're moving him up for position. He follows these two riders. Again, and I'm not going to get into the who are these people and this and that. And I'm not commentating here. I'm just talking about performance. I want you guys to look at these concepts. Pedersen here, again, he used the one rider that we saw from the helicopter view to move up, and now he's using these teammates here to move up. He's had to switch sides of the peloton, and he's only moving up when it bunches. And he's not doing it himself. Now, we all have been in this situation on group rides, and we have all been in this situation in races where it's strung out. We have an opportunity where we can just go off into the wind and shoot it while the peloton's all strung out. When you do that, you use too much energy. You are using so many more watts than everybody else. It's going to cost you when that peloton bunches again right after that. All those riders you just passed on the straightaway are going to come around you. So here he is, follows the two teammates. They move him right to the front. And this is the next thing that he does a phenomenal job with. He links up with his teammate. Situational awareness. Does not go past his teammate. Does not keep following these two homies. He just simply sees that they drove him to the front, and then he says, nope, I'm going to go to my teammate. Now, again, this seems like super obvious stuff, but a lot of times people lose their mind when they fall too far back and they get back to the front. They move themselves up to the front. They move up in a situation where they pass their teammate, and then their teammate cannot help them. And so here we see Vacek do a phenomenal job. We let this rider lead the other rider out, and he just passes him. He counts on his teammate who has been on the front. He bets it all, and here it is. Leads him into the last corner. Set it up perfect. I guess one more corner, so the last two corners. Sets it up perfect. Starts sprint, lets his teammate absorb the first part of the sprint, and then he jumps. Phenomenal job here, and then he's sprinting. Obviously, we could talk about sprinting technique and sprinting stuff, and that'll be another video. But takes it all the way to the line, does a really good job looking forward, staying connected with the effort, takes it all the way to the finish line and wins the stage. So again, those are the key things that I think make that performance absolutely phenomenal. Ended up getting a stage win. A stage win that I would say, again, if he thought about 2K to go, was not going to happen. And so I want all of you to try to absorb those things that I'm sharing there, kind of learn from them and say, how can I apply these to my group rides or to my races? How can that help me improve my performance? And then, of course, we're watching the best of the best, Pedersen, Lytle Trek, do an amazing job to get this stage win. So fun to watch as a fan. So fun to watch as a professional racer. And yeah, amazing performance. So let's use those things, take it to the next level in our own cycling. And yeah, let's look for trying to do more of these things. I just had a baby. That's why I've been kind of offline for a little bit. Number 5, I got 5 kids. So that's been exciting over here, but I'm going to try to jump in and do a bunch more of these. So I hope you guys liked it. And yeah, ciao. On to the next one.